All right, let me steal your
Oh,
little pointer. Is it this side one? Got it. Okay. Perfect. Hey, it's that time of year. Okay, everybody's excited.
Best time ever. Don't forget to
Make sure you pay your dues before the end of June. So close something, pay your dues because they're coming up. And the end of June will be here faster than you know. Today's the 16th of May, by the way. Just saying.
Oh, and by the way, if you've already paid it after I paid, they decided to raise it $6. So I had to go in and pay $6 yesterday.
Ouch.
Just FYI, if you've already paid it, you got to go back in.
They'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, just wanted to share this. Showed up yesterday from realtor.com. Or excuse me, from NAR.realtor. Highest average monthly mortgage payments by state. Utah made number 4 on the list. Is that a good thing? Yes and no. I mean, that's a lot of nickels, boys and girls. But my goodness, Utah at $28.91 is the average mortgage payment right now in the state. That's crazy. And you'll get these slides. They'll send them to you, so they're fun. Really quick, explaining agency. This just came from actually from a Washington County email that I got from their CEO. Just 3 different scenarios that people had. There's one scenario was, I think it's a false scenario, but buyer didn't realize they were bound to their agent for 6 months. You guys need to be explaining to your buyers what indeed they're getting into. I know it's crazy, but you should tell them what they're signing with DocuSign and all that. It's super easy. This one, the middle one, I think this one's a false argument. Listing agent secures a ready, willing, and able buyer, and seller decides not to sell, and now the listing agent wants to get paid. Who's right? Does the agent get paid? Is the agent owed? When does a seller owe money? When they accept the offer, then they owe a commission. If they don't accept an offer and they say, you know what, I decided I want $1 million instead of the 500 that you guys brought me. Yeah, they don't owe you a commission. So just let you know, you can hire an attorney, but I'm probably not going to go and fight for you in small claims court for that. Sorry. Anyway, the last one, after a lengthy property search, a buyer finds instead of FSBO, they want to move on their own. The agent wants to still get paid. Who's wrong on that in that scenario? If you have a signed by a broker and your buyer goes buys a FSBO, does the buyer owe you a commission?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, they do. So be careful and explain to your buyer and say, look, I'm here to protect you from yourself. Because a lot of times buyers don't know what they don't know. And they go out there. I've seen buyers sign up 2 and 3 buyer agents. Buyers can obligate themselves to pay multiple commissions if they sign multiple buyer brokers. So be careful out there. And I'm not going to probably sue the buyer for that commission, but dang it all, buyer, understand what you're doing, because I've seen it happen. So just watch out and keep pushing the wrong button. Anyway, don't let technology make you lazy. Don't just send them docs, say, hey, sign all these and we're going to move forward. Let them know what they're signing. That's really the purpose of this message. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. Did you hear yet?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand out this sheet, and you want to have it facing this way. I know there's 2 sides to it. You want to be looking at the lion. Okay. And I'm going to read this little fable. And it's the story of the lion and the gazelle. And it says that every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows that it must run faster than the fastest lion, or it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle, or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you are the lion or the gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. Okay. Now I'm curious about what lessons can we pull when we look at our specific space, when we look at success in business and life. What does that small story teach us? Yeah. Perspectives.
Maybe we're going about our business a different way. Or we're not chasing it. We're the one running away from it. And it's kind of the same analogy with the storm, even. I think we either run into the storm or we run away.
Mm.
And I think you could relate that to the lion or the gazelle right there.
Are you running from or running away? How many of you run from lead gen and every day run away from it? Some of you embarrassed to raise your hands, but you know it's true. Love that perspective. What else? Tannen.
I was going to say it's your choice every morning are you going to be the lion or the gazelle? You choose. No one's going to come up and force you to be one or the other. You got to decide what you want to do.
Yeah. Love that. So it's your choice. Realizing that you have the choice. Right here.
It just makes me think of what we're doing to sharpen the saw and to continually improve ourselves, because there's always going to be someone that will be working harder or more effective. So if we want to get that listing, if we're not in tip-top shape, then we're going to lose it. If we're trying to win out on helping our buyer, then we're not doing what we should be doing. Someone else will do it better.
Here's something I want you to write down that I think is interesting is, what do these two animals have in common each morning? I think there's two factors that relate specifically to how entrepreneurs wake up every day. And I think these animals portray that, which is two words: urgency and focus. Urgency and focus. So I want you to think about this, that everybody has driving forces, and especially in a shifting market, it's so important to figure out how much urgency do you have in the pursuit of your goals. Everybody has urgency. Some of it is just, the question is how much? Is it a level 1 urgency? Is it a level 10 urgency? Do we make decisions differently? Do we act differently dependent on the level of urgency we have? How many of you have had the experience where you're motivated by fear of something? Okay. Yes. How many of you have been motivated by a vision, something that you are chasing? Yes. Right. So there's two different types of urgency that I think is important for us to subscribe to. Thank you. Is fear and vision. Now, this is I think an important piece, because you have to understand how you intrinsically operate. Everybody's a little bit different. I am a person that's highly motivated by fear. Okay. And I use it to my advantage. There are others who are completely drawn towards a vision, something that they're chasing. And it can be both. And you should use both. Okay. But you have to get very purposeful and intentional around this. So for example, I'll give some personal examples. For fear, like one of my fears is not having to go back to living in my childhood circumstances. Like every day, that is something that I'm running away from, or saying that I do not want my kids to have to experience something like that. I have a fear of regret. I don't, at the end of my years, when I'm done putting in the grind, want to and say, oh, I could have done more, right? I could have been more impactful. I could have been more helpful. Stagnation. This is actually something that strikes fear in me, is the fear of staying the same. This idea of living the same year, 40 years in a row, and then calling that a life. Drives fear in me. Financial instability. It drives me to have a certain level of income, a certain level of assets at all times. Wasted potential. Again, looking back on the journey and not being able to say that I maximize my experience. So those are things that motivate me or continue to push me to move forward with a certain level of urgency. Now let's flip it and look at the vision side. Some individuals are driven by this desire to gain financial independence. Now, how many people, if you raise your hand, if you ask, just friends and family members, how many people say they would like financial freedom? Everyone, right? Now, how many of them are actively pursuing it with a high level of urgency? Would you say that's everybody? No, right? So you have to dive into the psychology of why. What's your driving, motivating force? Okay, get clear about that. Personal growth and development can be a big vision that people have, is becoming better than they are, right? This Jim Rohn thought is that you can have all that you want because you can become all that you want to become. Another one is building a legacy. Some people have a vision for what they'd like to pass on, whether that be to their family, to their community, and that could be a drawing force. There's this idea that one way to fail at your goals is to be casual in your approach towards those goals. Okay, too many people are too casual in their approach towards their goals. The other piece that, again, I feel like highlight from these two animals is how many things are they thinking about when they wake up in the morning? One thing, right? 1 to 2. Like, they keep it pretty simple. Okay. How many of us humans complicate life and have thousands of thoughts running through our brains all the time? Right? It's a mess. At least for me, it is. Okay. And so we have to be able to get very purposeful around our focus. Where is our energy focused on? And there's a great book that I will go through in a second. But has anybody played this game, Two Truths and a Lie? Okay, I want you to tell me which one is the lie in this lineup. Truth number 1, providing exceptional customer service is crucial for building a successful real estate business. Truth number 2 is everything matters equally. And truth number 3 is that success in real estate requires consistency, focus, and a well-planned schedule. Raise your hand if number 1 is the lie. Raise your hand if number 2 is the lie. Raise your hand if number 3 is the lie. Okay, it's unanimous. Great. I'm glad. Now, here's the interesting thing is, although you all know that truth, right, that everything does not matter equally, how many of you have your calendar that reflects that? Or if somebody was to follow you around for an entire week, would say that you act in order of priority? Because even though we believe it, we act as if that is the truth. That's the question. So this book, has anybody read Essentialism? Okay. So a different frame of the one thing, it is a very different perspective, but I think it's so important. And Greg talks about how to focus on the vital few rather than the trivial many. Now, if you read the MREA, how many tasks of a mega agent are there? From contract to close, how many little check boxes do you have to cross? Does anybody know this number? 192 tasks that somebody could do to get a deal across the finish line. Now, some of those items your clients would actually never know if you did them or not. Would you agree with that? Yeah. And some of those items could put your client in jeopardy or not deliver the highest quality experience to them. So you have to act in order of priority and get very clear about what are the most important tasks to focus on. So part of this, who's familiar with the 4% rule? Or more broadly known as the 80-20 rule. What's the 80-20 principle? Okay. This is what I found, the people who are in the top 1%, this is the deciding factor between those individuals and people who stay average in their career. Is that some people realize that there are 20% of your activities will lead to 80% of your results. But then there's others who find out that there's actually 20% of the 20% that is actually the most impactful. Okay. Which equals 4%. So if you do 192 tasks times 0.04 times 4%, that comes up with roughly 7. Okay. So that's where I'm going to go through and say, what are the highest income producing activities that you could focus on? Because here's the reality. Are you guys okay if I share a mental illness that I have? Is that okay publicly? Okay. I have this urge to make sure I check things off the list. Okay. And I get like the jitters if there's unchecked boxes. Okay. But the reality is this is something I'm still learning through in life, is how to act in order of priority. So if we look at this as these are your checklist items throughout the day. So if you go back through yesterday, you did things, right? You checked email, you made some phone calls, you maybe went on some appointments, you maybe signed a ERS or BBA, right? The question you've got to ask is, what value does that item actually have? Because some of those tasks are $20 an hour tasks. Some of those tasks are worth $100, and some of them are worth $500. Might it look different if I said every time you knock off one of these boxes, you're going to get paid equal to the value in that item? How many of you would consistently want to focus on the $20 items? How many of you looked at your calendar right now over the past week, realized that you might have been focusing on the $20 items? Right? And how do we start shifting our perspective to consistently focus on these higher income producing activities? So let's go through them. Lead generate for buyers and sellers. Should be the first thing that's time blocked on your calendar when you're looking at your week ahead. If you've got a doctor's appointment in the morning and it bleeds into your lead generation time, what do you do with your lead generation block? If you erase, you must what? Replace. So you've got to shift it. So you say, what's in the afternoon is a lower income producing activity that I can bump, that I can move, that I can relocate to another day. And I'm going to shift my lead generation time to the afternoon because I know that's number one priority in my business, right? Number 2 is lead follow-up. Here's where most sales professionals drop the ball. Okay. I am the king at opening up a text message while I'm driving and then forgot that I open it and forget to respond, right? I know you guys don't do that, but I do. The follow-up process is so important. And this is one of the sides of this is finding a way to make sure you keep your promises to yourself and to other people. Lead follow-up. The next activity is to go on appointments. If you measure your success throughout the month by how many appointments you went on, you will win. Okay, at the end of the year, you will win if that's what you focus on. How many appointments did I go on this month? Number 4 is to negotiate contracts, to put our clients in the best situation possible. It's a high income producing activity. Number 5 is to provide value, provide expertise to our clients. Now, there's a long list of items that can be added here, but some of the things that stand out: CMAs, right? Doing property analysis for clients, sending them hot properties, things that might catch their attention, doing ROI, return on investment calculations for investors. So instead of having them do all that legwork, you do it for them and present it and say, hey, here's a great property that might catch, that might meet your long-term goals. Sharing local resources, professional recommendations, the list goes on. Number 6 is conversation practice. Now, I'm going to just throw out a number here, and I apologize if this offends you, but I would guesstimate probably 5 to 10% of agents in this room have script practice or conversation practice on their calendar as a time block? Probably less, could be. I might have been generous on that, right? But the reality is that also, if most people don't realize, that's the one roadblock that's leading them to have the conversion rates that they're having. They're not actually having the right type of conversations that's guiding clients through the process. A lot of people have fear around what they're hearing in the media in these kind of times, and that's stopping them from moving forward, either on the buy side or the sell side, right? And so we have to be able to articulate with clients what's really happening, and then also solutions, right? Conversation practice is also about being solution oriented. And when a client says, well, interest rates are just too high, how do you respond to that? Okay. Some agents will say, yeah, they are, but, right? And one of the realities is how you frame it. So how you say something matters. And so practicing that on a consistent basis is a high income producing activity. Skill development. Skill development is another one that's high on the list. And this is, again, has a long list of items that you could do here, but focusing on how do you expand your market knowledge? How do you understand what is moving in the real estate market of Utah, our local economy, and then also on a macro scale, things that are impacting the real estate market? Being aware of those. How do you expand your knowledge of how technology and tools can help you provide more consistent value to your clients and save you more time? Do a lot of the repetitive tasks that either you do and it wastes your time, or that you're not doing that you should be doing. Okay. So using technology and tools. Expanding your skill set of marketing and advertising. Okay, we are in the business of marketing ourselves, and we have to get very, very effective at using marketing practices that are working in that market of the moment. So we've talked about this one, which is how do we market solutions right now? That's what we had to focus on, is market the solutions to current sellers and buyers' problems. Ask yourself in the past month, how have you marketed solutions to the current day problems for the client, for our consumers? And then sales and negotiations. Another skill set to double down on and lean into. So I want to pause because I just went on a rant for like 15 minutes. Okay. What's standing out to you as we talk about this perspective of getting very focused and dialed in on your core activities? What are some of the challenges, your perspectives? Robin?
Thanks. And so many times we're doing things, texting, emailing, on the phone. I don't know if everyone, are you going and face to face all the time? And I was just thinking that would definitely be something that I could improve on, instead of letting conversations flow through through our phones.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, get in
Yeah.
front of them. Maybe you all do that, but if it's someone I know, we're texting is what everyone does, and the phone, and I don't know.
Mhm.
That stood out to me.
Yeah,
Go with them face to face all the time.
totally. You highlight something that's interesting with, we'll go cash in the back, with just the human experience, is that our natural inclination is towards things that are most efficient. We want to conserve energy, right? So text messages or an email are a lot easier than a phone call. And a phone call is a lot easier than a in-person meeting, right? But the most effective are going to be the one-on-one relationships, right? So the appointments are going to be the most impactful for your business. So track what's effective, what's actually going to move the business forward. And if our text messages, if the phone calls are not getting us to where we want to be, that's where we have to go back to the skill set and say, okay, I need to sharpen this craft to find more of the motivated in this time and find also how to get appointments set. But that is a great thing to track. Yeah. 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 For sharing.
So what stood out to me is, I mean, this is the most effective of the most effective. And if you want a better outline when you're sitting down and making your schedule, planning, I mean, this is it. You know, I have lead generate. I've been taught since I've been in the business that that's the most important thing. But I don't have time in my calendar to provide value or expertise. I don't. I have time set up for lead gen, appointments, conversation practice, but skill development and provide expertise or value. I think having a focus within your calendar and a focus within what you want to do every day. If you want to know how to win, this is it with the market we've got right now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Awesome perspective. Yeah.
I think for me, the conversation practice is a huge one, and scripts, because if you feel confident about what you're going to say, you lead generate like, oh, I'll go call someone because you know what you're going to say. If you're following up on your leads, you know what you can say, or you have scripts ready and providing value. It's all within that conversation practice part.
Yes. I want to go deep on this for a second. Some of you heard me talk about this, but before we had money as a form of exchange, what did we use? Barter system, right? And what is that kind of outline? How does that work? I'll trade you this for that. Very, very simple, right? Now, how long ago did that start? (2001) Right? As far as we can go back in time, like people trading chickens for cows, or I don't know, rocks for sticks or something, right? But the reality is, this is just my thought process, is that might be built into our DNA now because it's been happening for so long. So typically when people are afraid of lead generating and calling their database, it's because they haven't clarified what item of value am I bringing to the table to give to this person. I'm not just going to call and say hi. What item of value can I call to provide to them? For example, if you're going to Keller Splash in a couple of months or next month, would you be afraid about calling somebody and saying, hey, I have some tickets for you to come have some fun on me? Is that a scary conversation to have? No, right? So one of the challenges is, before prospecting for every single month, you should have your item of value kind of goodie bag prescribed of saying, hey, these are the 3 things that I offer based off of whatever situation this client's in. An offer that I'm going to give to a seller will be different than an offer I'm giving to a buyer, and different than an offer I'm giving to an investor. But when you have those things prescribed, it's a lot easier to make that phone call because you're asking for their time, right? You might even ask for their home address or their email. So before you can take something of value, you have to give something of value. Okay. So naturally, that's where that hesitancy comes from, is that you haven't figured out what you're actually going to give, what you're bringing to the table that's valuable to them. Does that thought make sense? Okay. So clear about what your value proposition is. Rob.
You know, that's the whole premise of what a lead magnet is, you know, is that to get their attention, you've got to give them something of value, you know, to get them out of their own little world here. And that opens up the conversation that will lead to other things.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Any other thoughts on this? Okay. So I want you to actually flip over your piece of paper. Going back to this idea of essentialism, this is basically your cheat sheet. You don't have to go read that book. This is kind of the highlight overview of what you're going to find. But it's ultimately the disciplined pursuit of less. Okay, the disciplined pursuit of less. In real estate, you can do 192 tasks and feel busy and not get the outcomes that you wanted, right? So we have to get clear about there's 38. If you do, again, 192 tasks times 20%, that's 38. There's 38 high priority tasks that you could do. And then if you do 20% again, that's where you find the 7. So from 38 to 7, that's where the gold mine is. That's where you hit your goals. So the question is, often people will think about, what do I need to do to hit a certain goal? I actually want to flip that just a little bit. It starts with, what do I need to stop doing? Okay. So if you wrote down a itemized list of all the activities that you focused on the last week, you actually should go back through and say, what do I need to stop doing that's not the highest impact of time? So what do I stop doing? Before you then say, okay, what do I need to focus on? What do I need to start doing? That's going to move my business forward. This first bullet point section, the way of the essentialist is to discern the vital few from the trivial many. So getting very clear about what is most important in my business and in life. And this process does apply to life as well. Like you can go into your personal routine and things that you do at home and find out what things are most fulfilling, most impactful for you in home. Number 2 is understand the power of saying no to non-essential tasks. That is a word that I am still learning. What's that movie with Jim Carrey where he, is it Yes Man? Is that what it is? What was it? Liar, liar. Liar, liar. Is it the yes one, where he has to say yes to everything? Right? Naturally in sales, we learn to wow our clients by saying yes to everything, right? Or just wow other people. And sometimes we have to say no to things. And so developing that skill set. Number 3 is learning to make intentional choices along with your values. So again, be very intentional about your approach and do the things that matter most and just discard the rest. Like I promise, out of those 192 tasks, again, there's a lot of them your clients will never know if it got done or not. Okay. And if you're wise, you'll hire leverage into your business with some of those trivial tasks that need to get done, right? The second stage is to eliminate. So eliminate, let go of non-essential commitments and distractions, simplify life by removing clutter and noise, and create space for the essential by eliminating the unnecessary. So once you eliminate, then you can execute. Execution comes with taking disciplined action towards your goal, applying focus and discipline and consistency to achieve meaningful results, and then cultivating habits and routines that support your essential pursuit. Okay. So that's kind of the formula to become what they call an essentialist. Now, does this stuff seem pretty similar to one thing, right? Your ability to focus on what's most impactful. There's some focusing questions down at the bottom that can be super helpful in this process. And I highly encourage you to take some time, whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes today, to just jot down some answers, some things that come to mind. Number 1 is, what's the one thing you are currently doing that if you stop doing immediately would make it a major impact on your ability to focus? Going back to the lion and the gazelle, right? Your ability to focus will be a determining factor on whether you thrive or die, unfortunately, in this space, okay? Number 2 is, what's the one thing you're not doing that if you started doing immediately would change the trajectory of your year? So I want you to really think about that one. We're halfway through 2023. Is that nuts? That's crazy, right? Like we're almost to this point where we're thinking about fourth quarter. Okay. I know I'm a little intense. Today I'm fired up. Okay. I had a cup of coffee today and it's just, I can feel it. The reality is though, we do have to look at what's the one thing I changed in my life. And here's where my focus is. I don't want you guys to have to slave away for 40 to 50 hours, 60 hours a week. part of this is if you actually just get more effective with time, you can work less. Do the things that matter most, right? So the whole focus is how do you do less, earn more? Okay, James.
In the book, he also says, this is one of my favorite quotes. He says, if you don't prioritize your time, someone else will.
Yep. Mic drop. It's a great one. Can I just get somebody to read these two quotes and then we'll wrap up? Thanks, Cam.
Yes. Essentialism is not about how to get more things done. It's about how to get the right things done. Only once you give yourself permission to stop trying to do it all, to stop saying yes to everything and everyone, can make your highest contribution towards the things that really matter.
I'm just reminded of that quote that you shared one time about we don't need to do smarter things, we need to do less dumb things. And like I'm sitting here like agreeing, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll go back upstairs and make sure I clear out my inbox. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just, it's so easy to get, like, this is all so fine and dandy, but if we don't actually put it into practice, it's just going to be just another lesson. So I'll commit to it.
Yeah, yeah. Education without implementation is entertainment. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some ahas, whatever you're going to implement over the next 7 days, what you're going to implement today. Let's go get a few takeaways. And if you plan to do nothing, just don't raise your hand. Sheila.
I'm going to commit to planning my day the night before, because once the morning hits, you're already off and running. So if you don't know where you're running, by the time you wake up, you get all distracted.
I should hear gasps on that one. That's a golden rule. That's a good one. I like that. Connie.
Every morning names get into my head, like call so-and-so, call so-and-so. And by the time I get to my home office, I sit down and say, oh, I'll call him later. Oh, I'll call him later. I'm going to commit not to do that later. But when the moment that name pops into my head, stop what I'm doing and get on the phone.
Take an action.
I heard something one time that if you can do a task within 2 minutes, you should just do it then. I've been trying to implement that more so I don't forget to do things.
One more, and we'll wrap up. Jenna.
To not look at social media for the first hour. Thanks. I won't look at social media for the first hour after I wake up, because I know that it does something to your brain in that first hour. If you look at it, you get addicted for the rest of the day. And so I feel like that is impacting my productivity. And also, there was something else. I like to plan the day the night before, but yeah, that's my one.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all. Awesome to see you. Just remember, Thursday, you do not want to miss Win with Sellers. If your goal is to sell more real estate this year, Clay is one of the best to do it. I don't know how many career sales he has, but he has like 700 sales, like something crazy. So you want to learn from him. Yeah. So. Today. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for sharing that, Angie. Yeah.
When you get there.
Yeah, when you get there, we'll have like Venmo or whatever options set up, make it easy. And that, just be clear, like that is, we're eating the cost on manuals, but this does cover lunch and the manuals. So it's all inclusive.
So I was late to the party, but I definitely want to give a plug to Clay's class, the Win with Sellers. Everybody should really sign up right now. I mean, with the market being what it is, I just feel like everybody needs to sharpen their skills when it comes to pricing, it comes to winning the deal. So I highly recommend that class.
Awesome. Okay. Have a great day. We've got Jimmy John's in the back.